Hey everyone, this is Nadeem and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today in this lecture, we will study about the system international, and then after that, we will discuss about the physical quantities and the types of the physical quantities. So the types of the physical quantities and the basis of magnitudes and the basis of direction. So on the basis of magnitude, the physical quantities have two types. The first one is the base physical quantities, and the second type of the physical quantities and the basis of magnitude is derived physical quantity. Similarly, on the basis of directions, the physical quantities are divided into scalar physical quantities and the vector physical quantities. First, discuss that what does mean by the system international, and then we will then generalize to these physical quantities. So, first start with the system international. So here we start with the system international. And the abbreviation of this system international is SI. And we also call this is the SI. And what is this system international? This is actually the system mean the complete set of units which is followed internationally. And let's discuss this. Before 1960, there was the problem with measuring the physical quantities, and that problem was this: if someone measure the mass in kg, the other one will measure that same mass with the pound, and the other person maybe make their own standard for the mass. And similarly, if someone measure the length in meter, the other one will measure that in foot, and the other one will make their own standard for that according to their availability of the material. So there was no standards throughout the world for the physical quantities. So it make the problems for business and also for the education purpose. So in order to solve this problem, scientists uh, group together and make a community, and they in that community they decide about seven physical quantities, and they say that these seven physical quantities will be standard throughout the world. So these seven standards were made in that community. So these are that seven standard on which the all scientists are agreed, and they call these seven standards as a base and physical quantities. So later in this video, we will discuss that why they are called these seven physical quantities are called the base physical quantities. These are these standard physical quantities, and all other physical quantities are derived from this standard physical quantity. So here, this is the other physical quantity which is not present in this base physical quantity, but this is a comes from this base physical quantity, because here is the multiplication, the division of the one base physical quantity and the other base physical quantity. Here the area is not explicitly present here in the base physical quantity, but it is their formula consists of the length multiply the length, and these both lengths are present in the base physical quantities. So this physical quantity, this area is come from this length multiplication of these base quantity. Similarly, the volume is also come from the multiplication of these quantity base physical quantities, and the force formula is also end up with this base physical quantity. So these all are called derived physical quantity because these quantities are derived from these base physical quantities. So here the speed is also derived from this base physical quantities, and this area, volume, force, and all the formulas present in your book, and throughout the physics, the formulas present will always be end up with the units, and that units will be present in these base physical quantities. So from here we can conclude that the scientist in 1960 in that community defined seven physical quantities, and that seven physical quantities are the base quantities, and from these seven physical quantities all other quantities can be derived by multiplication or division of these physical quantities. So therefore we call these seven quantities are called base physical quantities, and these are derived physical quantities. So this was uh, the physical quantities. So here I'm going to mention here that physical quantities are all those quantities which can be measured, which can be measured. Mean that is length be measured? Yes, length is measured with meter. Mass is measured with the kilogram. Time is measured with the second. So here, force is measured, area is measured, volume is measurable. So here, all these quantities are called physical quantities. So those quantities which can be measured are called physical quantities. In the other words, we can say that all the quantities which is defined inside the science will call the physical quantities, because physical quantities only because the science only applicable for the physical quantities. So all the formulas present in your chemistry books, in your physics books, all the formula comes in this physical quantities. This physical quantity consists of the all measurable quantities, and then we classify these physical quantities on the basis of the magnitude. So on the basis of magnitudes, and here I'm going to mention that what does mean by magnitude and direction. So magnitude, if someone asks you to that I'm come from the 15 kilometer from the east. So here this 15 kilometer, so here this 15 kilometer is actually show us the amount. So this amount is called the magnitude. This is the magnitude in this case. And this east is indicate us the direction from which side you come. So this is actually the direction. So here we have the direction. So on the basis of the magnitudes, on the basis of this magnitude, on the basis of the quantities of the physical quantity, the amount of the physical quantity, we divide this physical quantities into base physical quantities and derived physical quantities. So here, this base physical quantities comes from the System International, and in that System International, the scientists come make a group and make a community for making seven standard physical quantities, and that standard seven physical quantities is called base physical quantities. So here is that seven quantities. So the scientists first define these seven physical quantities, and they call these as a base physical quantities. And there are some other quantities which are not present here explicitly. Here, let's say we have speed, and speed is not present here in this base physical quantity, but the speed is come from the division of the length and the time. So here we conclude that there will be some other physical quantities which is not present here directly, but they are made indirectly from these base physical quantities. So here the speed is made indirectly from this base physical quantity, the area made indirectly from this base physical quantity, the volume here is made indirectly, mean the three time multiplication of the base physical quantity here, the length. So it make us the volume, and similarly the force is come indirectly from the base physical quantities. So here there was the seven standard units, we call them as a base physical quantities, and the units which are derived, which are come from the multiplication or division of the base physical quantity, is called the derived physical quantities. So this was the classification of the physical quantities and the basis of magnitudes. And the first one was the base physical quantities which come from the system international, and the derived physical quantities which come from the multiplication or division of the base physical quantities. So here we will focus on how this physical quantities divide on the basis of direction. So on the basis of direction, this physical quantities is divided into scalar physical quantities and vector physical quantities. So now we will discuss that what does mean by the scalar physical quantities and the vector physical quantities. So here I'm going to write that first we will study about the scalar physical quantity. So let's say this is the scalar physical quantity. Physical quantity. This scalar physical quantities are those physical quantities which are only defined by their magnitude. So, which are only defined by only defined by its magnitude. So, defined by its magnitude. So, if you the mass. So let's say the mass, we have mass, and if we take, if we buy something, and we let's say that is about 1 kg. So if we buy an object and which is 1 kg. So is it here the direction is it here the direction is present? So there is no directions, only the magnitude, only the amount of the quantity is present in the mass. So we can't say that give me the 1 kg rice from the north, give me 1 kg rice from the south. So it will not make any sense. So therefore this mass is only defined by the magnitude. Similarly, the speed is equal to the distance per time. So here, let's, if someone say that I covered 3,000 kilometer. So it make a sense for us, because here is only the magnitude and there is no mention of the direction. And now what is the vector? So here the other one is the vector physical quantity. So the vector physical quantities are those quantities which are defined by its magnitude and also its direction. So it is defined by magnitude, magnitude, magnitude plus direction, plus direction. This is defined by the magnitude plus direction. Velocity is equal to displacement, and displacement is actually the the vector quantity divided by time. So therefore, this velocity will be the vector quantity. So here, if some in this case, in the velocity, the person will show the direction. That is here in the speed, they do not show the direction, but here you will say that I come from north by covering three 300 kilometer from the north. So if someone say about the speed and also show the direction with that, then that will call the velocity, and the velocity is actually the vector quantity which have its magnitude. This is only actually the magnitude, it show the amount, and here this is the direction because it show the direction. So here this is the magnitude, and this is the other one is the direction. So this is the direction. In this case, this quantity is called the vector physical quantity. So here the velocity is the vector and the speed in this case is a scalar because here is no direction. So this was the simple recap of the physical quantity. So first, we discussed about the physical quantities, and then first about discuss about the system international, then physical quantities, and then we divide that physical quantities on the basis of magnitude and direction, and this is the all explanation regards to that. So that's it, guys. Thanks for watching.